I introduce to you RNG main, a Diamond Pantheon main who's been playing jungle before and after the patch, and he's actually at a 60% win rate, well above average. So what is it that makes him so effective? He doesn't do it with a super snowball solo carry type mentality that you would expect, but instead, he bases his entire playstyle around maximizing utility for his team. Where most Pantheons would take Conqueror, RNG main opts for press the attack, and with a single empowered W, you actually fully stack it immediately, meaning that you get a bunch of extra damage from your teammates. As a core item, he'll always go for Eclipse, and that just gives a lot more survivability from the Omni Vamp, as well as some stickability from the movement speed. But even before he finishes Eclipse, he'll go ahead and rush Swifties so that he can maximize his uptime on the map, and also that it just kind of keeps him from getting slowed and kited, because that could be an issue for Pantheon, and make sure that he's always in range to get his empowered W and lock down a target. After Eclipse, in most games, RNG main will go for the Black Cleaver Rush on his second item. And with an empowered W, you guessed it, he immediately stacks 4 stacks onto the Black Cleaver. And that gives 20% armor shred immediately with an empowered W, so you can really make a pick out of any champ even if they're a little bit tanky. For situational items, he keeps it pretty simple. Kimpunk for healers, Serpents for shielders, and then Maw for AP burst damage, and Death's Dance for AD heavy comps. But the most interesting part of these situational items is the QSS, which he actually builds in quite a few of his games. This tells me that his primary focus and his identity in these team fights is that he wants to absorb damage, absorb cooldowns and spells from the enemy, and make sure that he's getting the most out of his utility for his teammates. So he's basically 100% focused on enabling his team. Another really strong part of this Pantheon's playstyle is how he uses his ultimate in a few different creative ways that I think you're really going to like, and we're going to get to those in a little bit. Now, let's see how his playstyle translates into a real game. Seeing a Blitzcrank on the enemy team, they ward for the invade, and our Pantheon uses the invade to go get a deep ward in Udyr's jungle, trading off the invade for a little bit of vision. And he starts with a full clear on his bot side, making sure he gets red buff, using his empowered Q to maximize AoE on Krugs and Raptors. Then he sees Udyr full clearing down from his top side, based on that ward that he put in earlier. He just verifies that. So he knows that Udyr started top and is headed towards bot side, and he knows that he has a clear window to gank bot without fear of a counter gank for the next 30 seconds or so. And he always comes into ganks with an empowered W, just like we talked about. And this guarantees a stun and the stacked PTA damage. And also, it makes it really quick to stack up another empowered ability, as the 3 autos from your W count towards your next passive stack. And so you can get multiple rotations in the same fight. He picks up the first kill, and then they're able to run down the Blitzcrank as well. And now he knows that Udyr was pathing to bot side, and they use the bot lane death timers to pressure Udyr on his blue. And the Sylas roaming over gives him the confidence to continue with the invade and fully commit to the fight. Then staying for Gromp afterward would have been pretty greedy with bot lane backup, so he starts his recall instead after the scuttle. But this is where RNG main actually overplays his lead. He opts for a low probability regank on the Jhin, and if he were to reset and spend his gold, he actually could have gotten back onto the map to contest Udyr's top side, and also hover his Aatrox, who was pushing out, very vulnerable to the Udyr, who's probably going to be going back into his top side to get his second rotation. Because of the overstay, Udyr ends up getting tempo on the top side of the map and is able to steal blue and also burn Aatrox's flash. So this is really bad for the top side of the map. Pantheon could have reset after the initial gank and maintained control of the top side. Now his jungle is getting invaded and he's on the defensive, but Sylas roams over for the 2v2, and notice here how Pantheon holds onto his empowered W and shows a ton of patience, making sure that they burst the squishy Katarina rather than using spells on the Udyr, who is pretty tanky. After picking up some more camps, Panth then finishes his first signature buy of Swifty Boots. Panth can kind of struggle with getting kited, and Swifties help to mitigate the slows and ensure that he can close the gap for his W lockdown on priority targets, which is the central point of his entire kit. With no camps on the map, he takes the opportunity to go for a lane gank in the top side. However, they lack a little bit of patience and they don't get a coordinated gank off. But this was a good time to at least look, since he had some downtime and doesn't have anything to lose on the attempt since there are no camps available to take. Out of base, he paths back to the bot side, but we might ask, why is he doing this? There are no camps up down there. He has camps top side. But at this point in the game, he's decided to make bot his strong side and wants to cover the slow push out and make sure that they can safely crash the wave without getting ganked. Topside is already significantly behind, so he's playing towards his best win condition rather than trying to salvage a lost lane top. This ends with them trading objectives, giving over a Rift in exchange for a Drake. From now on, we should see a relatively split map, with Udyr prioritizing top and Panth bot. They're both playing around their winning lanes. After a winning skirmish here, they take the opportunity to set up vision and then reset around the Drake timer. However, he doesn't want to risk a 5v5 at Drake at this point in the game, and instead, he trades Drake for a few waves topside. It's guaranteed gold that he is going for, and he doesn't want to take the coin flip fight. So it's very disciplined. He trades off for whatever reason. He doesn't feel comfortable taking that fight right now and coin flipping. Now is a great time to look at the different ways the RNG main uses Pantheon ult just in this game. It's very creative. So early on, he is hovering his bot side and they end up turret diving and he comes in to pick up the kill. And so that's something that we see pretty common with Pantheon ult, coming in for a turret dive, cutting off any escape. Also, he uses his ult to force fights in a long lane. When enemies are overextended and they don't have a turret and they're coming up to fight, you can ult in behind, and that's why he builds all the survivability in, is to absorb damage and make sure that they can close out the fight and collapse on the people in the middle. So that's another unique way that he uses his ult. And then next, he collapses on a side lane while Baron is up. Most junglers cannot do this. If you are a jungler and you go to the bot side while Baron is up, you are trolling most of the time. But with Pantheon, you can use your abilities and you can pick up a kill on the side lane and still have pressure around Baron, be able to get there on time with your ultimate. And then next, we just see him again cleaning up a fight that his teammates should have reset, but he can go in and clean up the last kill at the end of it and make sure that it's at least a somewhat decent trade. It's important to keep in mind that when you ult, you actually come in with full passive stacks. So you don't have to worry about stacking up your passive before you ult in. If you're on a camp or something like that, you don't have your stacks. If you ult in, you'll automatically have all your stacks and have an empowered ability up and ready to go. And finally here, we do have the QSS purchase. This is pretty late in the game. Usually it's a little bit earlier, but he's really just setting himself up to be able to put himself in the front line, take a lot of damage, a lot of spells, and ultimately just soak it all in while his Jhin and Sylas and Aatrox pump out some damage, and he takes a lot of the focus. Late game, he is very pick focused. You can see him roaming around the jungle, looking in fog with his empowered W up and ready to go. He can be pretty fearless with the lead that he generates and also with the itemization that he has, that he's just looking for someone to lock down, and he is trusting his team for the follow-up on whoever he targets. And so the target selection really is key for this playstyle. I hope that you'll take the opportunity to go try out this playstyle. I tried it. I had a blast. It was just a lot of fun. I don't play a ton of Pantheon, but his kit is really easy to use, and if you snowball, it's a really good time. If you're interested in seeing all the tricks of the rank 1 Ivern, you'll want to check out this video. I met up with Jamaican Banana, who is the best Ivern in the world, and he basically told us all the secrets about how to play Ivern. You won't want to miss it. I'll see you over there.